Right now, someone 3 blocks from your house is worth $8 million. You've watched them pump gas in a Honda Civic. You've seen them clip coupons at Costco. You've never suspected a thing. That's not an accident. That's architecture. 5 centuries ago, Machiavelli discovered something the powerful still guard like nuclear codes. Real dominance lives in the invisible. The second your wealth becomes visible, it becomes vulnerable. The Rothschilds built this into their DNA. The Rockefellers turned it into dynasty. And you're about to learn why the richest person you'll ever meet will never look the part. This isn't about getting rich. Any fool with luck can stumble into money. This is about building an empire so quietly that when people finally notice, dismantling it would require an army. Machiavelli called it strategic concealment, the art of winning wars before they're declared. These 9 laws have built more silent fortunes than every business book on Amazon combined. Law 1, the camouflage principle. Machiavelli wrote that men judge by eyes, not by hands. Translation: humans are intellectually lazy. They scan surfaces, draw conclusions, move on. This cognitive laziness is your greatest asset. Watch the newly rich. They're billboards for their own destruction. New Tesla, new Rolex, new everything. They mistake attention for achievement. Every post is a dopamine hit. Every flex is a tax they don't see coming. Here's what they miss. Visibility is the most expensive currency you'll never see on a balance sheet. When your neighbor finances that Range Rover, he's broadcasting, "I have extractable capital. Come take it." Salesmen study his patterns. Friends manufacture emergencies. The IRS runs the math. He's wearing a Target and calling it status. You do the exact opposite. You drive something that starts every morning and attracts 0 conversations. You dress like someone who shops, not someone who shops. You live in comfort that doesn't echo. Your house is the 4th nicest on a street nobody photographs. Why? Because the house on the hill doesn't just attract eyes. It attracts problems with lawyers. The Medicis controlled Florence while dressing like accountants. Behind walls of deliberate modesty, they financed popes and collapsed kingdoms. Their genius wasn't accumulation. Any merchant could stack gold. Their genius was invisible architecture. They looked like servants while owning the stage. Your first law: live visibly below your means, while building invisibly beyond your neighbor's comprehension. Let them think you're treading water while you're compounding at 12%. The wealth you don't parade becomes the capital that conquers. Every dollar saved from performance is a soldier you can deploy in silence. Law 2, the velocity doctrine. Dead money is dying money. Machiavelli observed that fortune despises hesitation and rewards velocity. In his time, merchants who buried gold in cellars watched it devalue through debasement and theft. Those who circulated it through Venetian trade routes multiplied it by factors of 10. Physics hasn't changed. Money hasn't either. Your savings account is a hospice where your future decomposes at 2.8% annually. Inflation is the executioner Machiavelli never named but would recognize instantly. Every month your capital sits motionless. It ages, weakens, dies. The strategic mind treats money as kinetic energy that must flow. Cash in hand should already know its next deployment. Real estate that appreciates while you sleep. Index funds capturing decades of compound growth. Businesses that generate revenue without your presence. Think of wealth as water. Stagnant water breeds disease. Moving water carves the Grand Canyon. Your capital must move with intention. Jeff Bezos doesn't warehouse billions in checking accounts. The microsecond Amazon generates profit, it flows into new infrastructure, acquisitions, technology. His money never rests because he understands what amateurs ignore. Accumulation without deployment is just expensive hoarding. Train yourself to feel physical discomfort when capital sits idle. The moment money arrives, it should have marching orders. Not tomorrow, not Monday, immediately. This isn't recklessness, it's surgical precision. The masses gamble on meme stocks because someone on Reddit said, "diamond hands." You allocate to proven vehicles that compound predictably. Boring obliterates exciting. The index fund, returning 8.4% annually for 30 years, annihilates the day trader chasing 40% this quarter. Machiavelli would spot this pattern instantly. Gamblers chase fortune. Strategists build machines that manufacture it automatically. Your second law: treat static capital as enemy territory requiring immediate conquest. Move it, deploy it, multiply it. Fortune doesn't reward caution. It rewards calculated aggression. Law 3. The silence protocol. This is where most people self-destruct. They build in silence for 9 months, then detonate their advantage the moment they see traction. One LinkedIn post, one dinner party mention, one casual slip to the wrong person, and the empire collapses before it's built. Machiavelli wrote, "The lion cannot defend against traps, and the fox cannot defend against wolves." His meaning cuts deep. Strength without stealth invites destruction. Stealth without strength accomplishes nothing. You need both, simultaneously, always. Every announcement is structural damage to your fortress. The moment you mention your rental property, they're calculating your net worth. When you reference your side business, they're wondering if they can replicate or obliterate it. When you share your investment thesis, you've handed them your playbook and the keys to your castle. The modern disease exceeds anything Machiavelli witnessed. Social media has weaponized transparency. People live stream their entire financial ascent for strangers. They post their wins, their vehicles, their strategies, expecting applause. What they receive is surveillance. Your competitors screenshot your methods. Tax systems flag your patterns. Friends develop silent resentment that metastasizes into sabotage. And worst of all, you become predictable. In chess, predictability is suicide. In wealth building, visibility is a death sentence on installment. The elite understand this at chromosomal level. Warren Buffett lives in the house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. Mark Zuckerberg wears identical outfits daily. They've eliminated the performance, not from humility, from strategy. Humility and invisibility look identical from outside. Only you know which one you're weaponizing. Delete the urge to broadcast. Kill the validation addiction. Build your digital empire in absolute silence. Unless visibility generates revenue, become a ghost online. No portfolio screenshots. No humble brags disguised as gratitude. No gains posted for dopamine. Let your results materialize without warning. Years from now, when they finally register what you've constructed, their first response should be, "Wait, when the hell did this happen?" Your third law: protection through obscurity. What they don't know, they can't take. What they can't see, they can't envy. Silence isn't secrecy, it's sovereignty. Law 4. The automation empire. Machiavelli observed that brilliant rulers build systems that execute without their constant supervision. They create mechanisms that enforce their will automatically, liberating them to strategize the next conquest. This is your financial metamorphosis. The amateur checks portfolios 17 times daily, reacts to financial news like it's gospel, buys high on euphoria, sells low on panic. They're not investing. They're gambling with spreadsheets. Machiavelli would call this ruling through emotion, and emotion always ends in ruins. The strategic builder automates everything. Set it once. Let it compound forever. Automatic transfers from checking to investment accounts. Automatic index fund purchases on the 1st of every month. Automatic dividend reinvestment. Automatic quarterly rebalancing. You're constructing a financial machine that conquers territory while you master other domains. Study the Venetian merchants. They didn't personally sail every ship to Constantinople. They built systems, experienced crews, proven captains, established routes, maritime insurance. Some ships sank in storms. Others returned with silk and spices worth 20 times the investment. The system survived individual catastrophes because it was designed for probability, not perfection. Modern index funds operate on identical logic. You're not betting on one company. You're betting on the mathematical certainty of human innovation expanding over decades. Individual companies fail. The system thrives.
This approach appears boring. That's the entire point.
Excitement in investing is catastrophically expensive. Every emotional decision bleeds wealth faster than management fees. The thrill of picking individual stocks, the adrenaline of timing market peaks, the satisfaction of being right about a trend. All of it drains capital like a severed artery. Billionaires automate and vanish. They set 20-year trajectories, then ignore daily noise. While amateur traders refresh their phones compulsively, the wealthy are building businesses, acquiring skills, living life. Their money compounds in absolute silence. Machiavelli said the prudent man does at the beginning what the fool does at the end. The fool waits for perfect timing. The strategist commits to automated systems that eliminate timing entirely. Your fourth law: build mechanisms that multiply wealth without consuming your attention. Free yourself from the screen. Let compound interest accomplish what willpower cannot. Law 5. The fortress network. A castle with one gate falls in a single assault. A kingdom with one source of grain starves when drought arrives. Machiavelli taught that concentrated power is fragile power. True security demands redundancy. Your income operates under identical physics. Right now, most people stake everything on one paycheck from one employer. They call this stability. Machiavelli would call it a death sentence waiting for execution. The microsecond that income stream closes, everything collapses like a controlled demolition. The wealthy architect different infrastructure. They construct multiple tributaries feeding one river, each independent, each resilient, each multiplying the whole. Begin with what exists. Your primary job is Foundation 1. While working it, you construct Foundation 2, a side project, a digital asset, a consulting service. Something generating revenue without requiring your employer's permission or knowledge. Foundation 3 emerges from intelligent deployment. Dividend-producing equities, rental income, royalties, money that deposits, whether you wake up or sleep through the week. Foundation 4 might be a small business, an online course, a specialized service for high-margin clients. Each fortress operates independently. If one falls, 3 others stand. The Medicis didn't stop at banking. They acquired agricultural land, funded Renaissance artists, controlled Mediterranean trade routes, influenced papal elections. When one income source faced pressure, 7 others compensated. Their wealth became impossible to destroy because it existed everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. You're building identical architecture at different scale. Start modest. One rental property in your metro. One automated online business generating $400 monthly. One skill you can monetize independently of your employer. Each stream appears insignificant alone. Together, they create mathematical sovereignty. Because here's what amateurs miss. Multiple income streams compound psychologically, not just financially. The microsecond you have 3 independent sources of money, you stop fearing your boss. Fear evaporates. Leverage materializes. You negotiate from strength because you can afford to walk away without catastrophe. That's not just wealth. That's freedom with a legal signature. Your 5th law: never depend on singular sources. Build parallel systems until your security becomes mathematical, not hopeful. 1 income is survival. 5 is sovereignty. Law. 6, the legal labyrinth. Machiavelli understood that empires need more than gold. They need walls, moats, and strategic obscurity. Modern translation: legal architecture. The amateur keeps everything in their personal name. They buy property as themselves, launch businesses as sole proprietors, collect income directly into personal accounts. They're completely exposed. 1 lawsuit, 1 tax audit, 1 vindictive ex-partner, and their entire empire burns to ash overnight. The strategic builder hides behind layers of legal infrastructure. An LLC for the first rental property, a separate LLC for the second, a holding company that owns both, a trust that controls the holding company. Each layer adds friction for anyone attempting to reach your actual wealth. This isn't paranoia. It's pragmatic architecture. The Rockefellers have maintained dynastic wealth for 5 generations, not through genius, but through structure. Trusts, foundations, corporations, nested inside corporations. Their wealth exists in a legal maze so complex that even their enemies can't navigate it. By the time someone identifies who owns what, the assets have already migrated to different entities. You don't need white-shoe law firms to begin. A basic LLC costs $300 and provides immediate liability protection. Each property you acquire should sit in its own legal entity. Each business venture should have separate legal walls. Why? Because when someone sues the LLC, they're suing an entity with limited assets. They cannot touch your personal residence, your other properties, your investment accounts. You've compartmentalized risk like bulkheads in a submarine. This strategy scales beautifully. As your empire expands, complexity expands with it. What started as 2 LLCs becomes 7, then 14, then a network so intricate that even you need sophisticated software to map it. That's not confusion, that's defense. And here's the psychological leverage. The moment your wealth becomes structurally complex, you stop being an easy target. Lawyers and adversaries choose paths of least resistance. If extracting value from you requires decoding a corporate labyrinth while your assets generate new entities, they'll move to easier prey. Machiavelli called this strategic fortification. Modern wealth architects call it asset protection. The concept is identical. Make yourself prohibitively expensive to attack. Your 6th law: separate ownership from exposure. Build legal walls during peacetime. The fortress constructed before war protects you when war arrives. Law 7: the anonymous virtue. Most people misunderstand generosity completely. They donate for recognition. They give publicly, post receipts, expect applause. Machiavelli would diagnose this instantly. They're not generous. They're purchasing status with charitable deductions. True power gives in shadows. When you donate anonymously, several mechanisms activate simultaneously. First, you eliminate ego from the transaction. the gift becomes pure. Second, you avoid triggering envy. Public generosity often breeds resentment, not admiration. Third, you build invisible goodwill that compounds in unexpected ways. The Medicis funded entire cathedrals without carving their names into marble. Hospitals, orphanages, public infrastructure. Their generosity created loyalty without creating jealousy. People loved the family without consciously understanding why. That's strategic compassion. Modern billionaires deploy foundations for identical reasons, not for tax optimization alone, but for influence that operates below the surface. Anonymous giving builds networks of gratitude that money alone cannot purchase. And there's deeper psychology here. Every time you give without announcement, you're proving to yourself that you control the capital, not the reverse. Giving becomes evidence of abundance, not performance. It reinforces the neural pathways that you have more than enough. This mindset shift is critical. Most people grip money desperately because they fear scarcity. When you give freely but quietly, you're programming your subconscious for expansion. You're telling your nervous system, there's always more where that came from. Machiavelli wrote that men love according to their own advantage, not yours. So when you help others without seeking credit, you're creating relationships based on genuine value, not transactional exchange. Those relationships last. Those alliances endure. The loudest givers gain temporary applause that fades by Tuesday. The silent givers gain permanent influence that compounds for decades. Your seventh law, generosity in darkness. Build moral authority without triggering envy. Give because you can, not because they're watching. Law 8, the circle of silence. Here's the truth that will save you years of pain. Most people in your life cannot handle your success, not because they're malicious, but because they're human. Envy is hardwired. Resentment is reflexive. The moment you rise, some will reflexively pull you back to their level. Machiavelli warned princes to select advisors with surgical precision. One careless tongue could unravel years of strategy. One envious confidant could betray an entire kingdom. Your circle isn't just social, it's strategic infrastructure. Audit your relationships with brutal honesty. Who celebrates your wins without immediately asking your income? Who builds alongside you instead of spectating from the sidelines? Who guards your confidence without needing to weaponize it for social currency? These rare individuals are your true allies. Everyone else is scenery. The average person surrounds themselves with comfort. They want friends who make them feel normal. The strategic person surrounds themselves with pressure. They want allies who make them evolve. There's a test for this. Share a significant goal with someone. Watch their immediate reaction. If they instantly list 17 reasons it won't work, increase distance. If they ask how they can contribute, decrease distance. Most people will fail this test catastrophically. That's acceptable. You're not building a tribe. You're building an empire. The elite understand this instinctively. Billionaires maintain small circles. Their closest relationships exist with people operating at similar levels of ambition and discretion. They're not isolating from humanity. They're protecting their trajectory from those who would sabotage it. Your wealth is only as secure as your loudest friend. If someone in your circle gossips about others, they'll gossip about you with identical enthusiasm. If someone celebrates drama, they'll manufacture drama around your success for entertainment. Remove them before they become a liability. This seems harsh, but Machiavelli never promised that power was comfortable. He promised it was effective. The person who keeps fools close will make foolish decisions. The person who surrounds themselves with lions will learn to hunt. Your eighth law, ruthless curation of proximity. Your circle should be small, silent, and strategic. Quality over quantity, discretion over familiarity. The right 5 people matter more than the wrong 500. Law 9. The evolution mandate. Everything decays without intervention. Machiavelli understood this at molecular level. Empires that stop adapting begin dying immediately. Companies that rest on past success get disrupted into irrelevance. Individuals who stop learning become obsolete. Your final law is perpetual metamorphosis. The moment you believe you've decoded wealth, the rules mutate. Markets shift. Technologies emerge. Strategies that worked last decade become traps this year. The only way to maintain advantage is to evolve faster than the system around you. This means relentless learning, but not the kind most people think. You're not collecting degrees or certificates. You're studying patterns, how money flows, how power accumulates, how leverage operates across different contexts. Warren Buffett reads 5 hours daily, not because he needs to at 95, because he knows that knowledge compounds faster than capital. Every insight becomes permanent infrastructure in his decision-making architecture. You need identical discipline. Books on psychology, behavioral economics, military history, strategic thinking, podcasts with builders, investors, contrarians, courses on skills that multiply your leverage. Not for credentials, for capability. But here's the critical distinction. You're not learning to perform. You're learning to execute. Most people collect information like trophies. They read, they nod, they do nothing. You read, you implement immediately, you iterate based on results. Machiavelli praised velocity of execution over perfection of planning. The ruler who moves imperfectly today defeats the ruler who plans perfectly for tomorrow. Applied knowledge is the only knowledge that matters. This evolution extends beyond skills. Your identity must remain fluid. The moment you lock into, I'm the kind of person who, you've constructed a prison. The strategic mind holds no fixed self-image. It adapts to whatever the situation demands. Poor today. Live frugally and learn voraciously. Comfortable tomorrow. Maintain frugality and invest aggressively. Wealthy eventually. Stay invisible and build legacy systems. Your personality is a tool, not an identity. Machiavelli understood that rulers must be foxes and lions simultaneously. Clever when necessary, forceful when required, never locked into one mode. The people who build generational wealth are unrecognizable from their former selves, not because they faked who they were, because they refused to remain who they were. They evolved, continuously, ruthlessly, without nostalgia for past versions that no longer served their mission. Your 9th law, permanent adaptation. Study obsessively, implement immediately, evolve constantly. The moment you stop changing, your empire starts dying, the invisible throne. So here you stand, armed with principles that have built empires for 5 centuries. The question isn't whether these work. The question is whether you'll use them. Because here's what separates the dreamers from the builders. The dreamer watches this and feels inspired for 37 minutes. The builder reads this and changes behavior before sunrise. Machiavelli didn't write for philosophers. He wrote for rulers. His work was pragmatic, not poetic. He expected action, not admiration. The same applies here. Tomorrow morning you face a choice. Continue living visibly, spending loudly, building slowly, or adopt the invisible path. Camouflage your wealth Accelerate your capital. Automate your systems. Diversify your fortresses. Protect through legal structure. Give without credit. Guard your circle. Evolve relentlessly. These laws don't require genius. They require discipline. The greatest wealth in human history has been built by people who looked unremarkable. They drove forgettable cars. They lived in modest homes. They spoke quietly in public. And behind closed doors, they orchestrated movements that shaped civilizations. You walk past them right now and never suspect. That's the entire point. The true crown is invisible. The real throne has no audience. Power that must be announced has already begun to fade. Power that operates in silence compounds eternally. So when you finally achieve what you're building, when your systems generate more than your labor ever could, when your wealth becomes unshakable and your freedom becomes absolute, remember, tell no one. Let them wonder, let them guess, let them never quite decode how you did it. Because the moment they understand your methods, they'll replicate them. And by then, you'll have already evolved 3 levels beyond their comprehension. That's the final secret Machiavelli never wrote explicitly, but embedded on every page. The ultimate wealth isn't money. It's the sovereignty to build your empire exactly as you choose, invisible to those who would interfere, impervious to those who would stop you. The throne exists. The crown is waiting. The only question remaining is whether you're ready to rule in shadows. Fortune favors the bold, but she remains only with the silent. Build accordingly. If this changed how you see wealth, you're ready for the next level. Like this video and subscribe for more strategies. The Elite Guard. Drop a comment below. Which law are you implementing this week? That's your contract with yourself. Stay silent. Stay dangerous.